Oh, I know you're multitasking. Thank you. All right. Thank you everyone for your patience. Good evening and welcome to the March 7, 2022 Human Services Committee meeting of Community Board 11M. My name is Nye Whitaker. I am the chair. I'm joined by Arturo Perez, who's our vice chair. We're going to start with some housekeeping before we move the agenda along. So first and foremost, I just want to remind everyone, this is an inclusive, diverse, and open and safe environment where we show respect to our neighbors, to our fellow board members, and to the public that are participating. No one is allowed to speak without first being given permission and granted the floor by the chair, which is myself, or Marlene, who is our board liaison. Excuse me, but the closed captioning is popping up in the middle of my reading the ground rules. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raised hand function there. If you are still having technical difficulties, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to Marlene, who is our board liaison. Next slide. The chat function should not be used for CB11 board business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information that you would like to share with the committee, the board, and or the public. That may include your name, your title, the name of your organization, phone numbers, emails, and links or information to upcoming dates of events or websites sharing additional information about presentations given today. That information should also be stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion so that we can try to remain on time. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized by the chair, myself, or Marlene, our board liaison. As of right now, it's 6:07, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I'm going to ask Marlene to do a roll call.
Sure. Eva Chan. I see Eva.
I see her too. If you want to go forward and then try her again.
Yeah. Osendi Garcia.
Present.
Present, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Robin Krinsky.
Present.
Thank you. Patricia Martin. Jennifer Meyer.
Present.
Thank you. Shirley Pena. Arturo Perez.
Present.
Thank you. Pastor Isaac Scott. Robin Strachan.
Present.
And Nye Whitaker.
Present.
We have quorum, Nye.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that we adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting. We'll just do this by verbal consensus. I'm going to give it a moment. If anyone objects to moving forward, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Okay, otherwise, I'm going to assume that our agenda is adopted and we can move forward with the agenda for this evening. We also need to adopt the February minutes of the meeting. I want to thank Art Perez, our vice chair, for continuing to make sure that our meetings are documented in support with help from our liaison, Marlene. So I'm going to ask for an adoption of the February minutes, again by consent. If anyone objects to the February minutes, which were previously circulated and are available online, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with the adoption of the February minutes. I wanted to just remind everyone a little chair's privilege here that the Manhattan Community Board applications are online and available. We have a new administration, a new borough president in Mark Levine. We also have new city council member as well. So I just want to make sure that people know that this is available and invite people to join. The original deadline was March 1st. It has been extended to March 15th. So if you have some time after tonight's meeting or over the weekend, I just want to encourage people to please get involved and be a voice for the community. Next slide. Great. So I'm going to call on our first speakers and update. You know, at this portion of the meeting, we always have a monthly COVID update, but we have just been informed that there's an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease, and there's an investigation in the community. So I'm going to call on our representatives from DOHMH to give us an update about the Legionnaire's investigation taking place in the NYCHA East River Houses complex, which is in the southern part of the district.
Hi, good evening, everyone. It's Pauline Ferranti from the New York City Health Department. I just want to slightly correct the chair, Nye. It's not an outbreak, actually. I can actually go into more specific details about the two different types of investigations we conduct at the health department. But the one at East River Houses is what we consider a building investigation. So anytime a resident of New York City is diagnosed with Legionnaire's disease, it is reportable to the Department of Health. And we have an entire team of trackers that track the individual's residence and a date of diagnoses. So we know exactly where they live and the date in which they were diagnosed. And so based on this information, we can figure out whether or not the individual might be in a situation where it's a community spread, where it typically happens in the summer due to cooling towers. And so how that works is there are people with multiple addresses, right? Different residents, but within maybe like a mile radius that we're seeing are having, you know, similar diagnoses dates, and they live relatively in the same area. We can then reasonably assume that a cooling tower in the district will be the culprit for a community cluster investigation. What's happening at East River Houses is completely different. It's what we're calling a building investigation. And building investigations typically take place when two residents or more within a 12-month period are diagnosed with Legionnaire's. So with East River Houses, there was indication of two individuals who were diagnosed within a 12-month period, and they have fully recovered and are out of the hospital. They were over 50 years old, but because there were two diagnoses with people who shared the same residential address, that triggered our investigation for a building investigation. So this has nothing to do with the cooling tower. It has everything to do with the internal water system of NYCHA. And I can say at this point, NYCHA has been very cooperative in making sure that they're providing the right samples, that they've done the proper cleaning of their internal system. And notification was sent to residents just to give them awareness that this was happening in their building, because Legionnaire's symptoms are very similar to flu symptoms and COVID symptoms. And so if an individual in NYCHA, you know, specifically 50 years or older, or has underlying medical conditions, if they come down with very similar flu, COVID, or potentially now Legionnaire's symptoms, they should seek medical care and let their doctor know that their building is being investigated for Legionnaire so they can get tested for that specifically. So that's really the reason why we notify tenants that in case someone does get sick, that they should let their healthcare provider know that their building is under investigation. To this day, there have been no new diagnoses, so that's good news. But we want to keep the water restrictions in place for the building just so that everyone can remain clear until we know what's happening in the system. So right now we've had testing and sampling taking place. We won't know for about 2 weeks whether or not there is Legionella bacteria within the water source, because it takes time for it to grow in the lab because it is a bacteria. And again, I want to reassure everyone that, you know, while it sounds very scary, Legionnaires and Legionella bacteria is very common in the environment. It especially likes to thrive in warm, stagnant water. And so, chances are as an adult, we've come in contact with Legionella bacteria at some point in our lives. But again, as healthy individuals, typically our bodies will be able to fight that off. Again, mostly vulnerable, older folks are more likely to develop the pneumonia that comes with inhaling the vapor, the mist vapor with the bacteria in it into their lungs, and that develops into a pneumonia. So I just want to reassure everyone there is no outbreak in East Harlem. There is just a building investigation for East River houses, just a couple of their buildings that share a water source, and only 2 people within a 12-month period were diagnosed, which is why we conducted and initiated this investigation. So I hope that clarifies some things for folks.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Just one follow-up question, because I know that there was a town hall to give information to the tenants there. What is the time frame? I know you said it's about 2 weeks, for this culture to be assessed or, to have further information. And then following that, kind of just what's the next step in communication in terms of providing updates to the tenants there and to their leadership?
Yes, absolutely. So as soon as we know the results of this sampling, we will convene either another meeting with NYCHA. Typically, if the samples come back and they're negative, we will notify the tenants with signage and let them know. I don't think it would be necessary to have a town hall if the samples come back negative. But if the samples do come back positive, we will most likely have a town hall in conjunction with NYCHA just to share with the tenants, what more is being done in collaboration with NYCHA and the health department to make sure that their water is their building's water is being cleaned properly and maintained properly. And if anyone has further questions, then to be able to respond to that. But yes, we do intend to inform everybody about the results of the sampling as soon as we know that.
And is there a primary person that people on site are responsible for communicating with? Because I heard you say something about the water. So what are they doing for water in the meantime while this is being tested? How is their water access affected?
Yeah, so water specifically is only for the hot water, really. We're telling people to avoid taking showers. They should run a bath, but run the water very slowly, again, to avoid any sort of mist or steam being created in the room, so that they don't inhale any of that water vapor. If they're washing dishes, again, to run the water very slowly. But if they're cooking with the water, that should be fine. I know that in our town hall, NYCHA residents did state that they were concerned about their water quality in general and didn't feel comfortable drinking their water. Typically, we say that when it comes to Legionnaires investigations, drinking the water is fine, but with the caveat for these tenants that if they are already unconvinced about their water status, that they really need to reach out to NYCHA, get their ticket in, have things looked at. But if they feel more comfortable asking NYCHA to provide them with bottled water, that's something that they absolutely can do. But for other building investigations where tenants feel like their water is fine, we always suggest that water is safe to drink. It's only when water vapor becomes, that mist in the air that you inhale, that's when there's more, concern. So we advise people to avoid taking showers at this point.
Okay, I'm going to recognize Rosendi Garcia with a question.
Thank you so much, Chair. So East River has a particular setup right now. They have a broiler that is set up outside, and they use a lot of the mechanics of the water and everything come directly from East River. And this broiler is continually sending out, tufts of smoke and mist. Are you taking into consideration how that may affect possibly a propagation of Legionnaires? Is that something that you're considering?
Yeah, that's really interesting information. I don't know about that. I'm pretty sure our team on the ground who's worked with NYCHA for the sampling and, the continued investigation probably know about this broiler. But again, if it was a situation where there would be a community cluster, we would see, multiple people within the vicinity, at least a 1 mile radius where multiple people are popping up with a diagnosis of Legionnaires. And again, any hospital, doctor, testing facility that tests someone and they come back with Legionnaire's disease, that is reportable to the health department. So it's not like we're missing any diagnoses. And like I've mentioned earlier, we have not seen any new cases at this point in or around the East River houses. So we can safely assume that it's an internal water system concern for now. But again, I'm happy to go back and talk to our team about the boiler situation for sure. And I'll get back to Chair Whitaker about that information.
Thank you, Osendi, and thank you, Pauline. Are there any other questions from the committee or from the public regarding this Legionnaire's situation at East River houses? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Marlene, are you seeing any hands raised?
No, I don't think you have one from the attendees.
Okay. Miriam, is that your name? Miriam Chardawal? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it properly. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, how are you? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So my name is Miriam. I'm a housing advocate at Synergia, a local nonprofit, and we work with individuals who have developmental or intellectual disabilities. So I just wanted to know if there's any specific point person within that specific development that can be contacted on behalf of tenants. We just, we have cases that are from our community, which is from river to river. So I just wanted to be in the loop on that.
I personally do not know who at NYCHA is the point for this particular building. I apologize. Chair Whitaker, do you happen to know off the top of your head who the tenant leader is?
I know who the tenant leader is. Yes, we know who the tenant leader is. I think she's asking from your side regarding the Legionnaires. Is there a specific point person, because they may be representing tenants in the building who have disabilities, who might have a particular need for communicating information about this. So
understood. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
so
I think the question is who's from either Department of Health or NYCHA contact for people. Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, I don't know who the NYCHA on the ground NYCHA person is. But for community affairs at the health department, we put on the notification. So any of the tenants who receive the notification, any and all, have this number, but it's 347-396-4161. They can call that number. And then someone from our team will be able to respond and provide them with whatever information they're seeking.
Perfect. Can you also drop that number in the chat, Pauline? And then I don't see any other questions, so we're going to move forward. Thank you so much, Pauline, for that information and for the clarification. Of course, I appreciate it. I want to make sure we're sharing out information properly and don't cause hysteria if we don't need to. So yes. Thank you for that. And thank you for the questions. Great. I'm going to move back to the agenda. Next up would be any updates related to COVID from our community partners and healthcare providers. So I don't know if Padmore John is here from the East Harlem Health Action Center.
I don't see Padmore.
Okay. Is anyone here from any of the other healthcare? So is Noel here from Metropolitan? Oh, I see Noel's hand up. I'm going to go ahead and recognize Noel Aliceya.
Hi, everyone. Happy March. Good news, numbers are way down, as everybody knows. That includes admissions. We are very, very low with admitted COVID patients. So we're very happy about that. Positivity rates are very low in the city at the moment. We urge people to maintain precaution. We want to keep numbers low as we go about engaging in activities. I have a number of, so we continue to provide testing and vaccine for people who have not been vaccinated, and boosters for everyone who's eligible, which is pretty much everyone 5 years and older. So if you have not gotten your vaccine, don't let the low numbers lull you into a sense of complacency. The numbers are low because vaccinations keep going up. It's not that simple, but that is part of the equation. I do have some other non-COVID specific announcements, if I can share those at this point also.
Sure. I don't want you to have to wait to the end. Please go ahead.
Metropolitan was recently designated as a Million Hearts Hospital by CDC and CMS. We are the 5th hospital in the country to receive this designation. We're very proud of it. It is related to our care around cardiovascular health. And this is a high priority for us in this community, so we're very excited about that. This is an initiative to prevent heart attacks and strokes. Our Community Advisory Board is having its legislative breakfast this Thursday from 9 to 11. We're inviting our community partners as well as elected officials to speak on budget and legislative issues that affect our hospital community. I will put a link in the chat, but if you don't get that for some reason, contact me directly or reach out to metropolitancab@nychhc.org. That's this Thursday morning. March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month. We recommend anyone 45 and older to talk to their doctor about a cancer screening, even if you feel healthy. There are a number of different ways to get screened. In addition to the traditional colonoscopy, there are FIT tests available, FIT, which can be done at home and then sent in to the laboratory for results. Colon cancer is preventable and treatable, and early detection makes a huge difference in outcomes. So if you're 45 and older or have any history of cancer, please make an appointment or reach out to someone about getting a screening. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. I do want to encourage everyone. I will be there for Thursday to come to this important event. And I believe it's named after one of our longtime community servants, Mr. Shaw, who is sadly missed. And so I know that he would love for us to continue his legacy by supporting Metropolitan and talking about, how our communities can collaborate better for better health and wellness. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. As was said on the agenda, today was the first day that some of the mask mandates have been removed. So I just want to encourage everyone to stay abreast of these developments because they are required in other places. So for example, the subway is required. I saw a lot of people getting on the subway without their mask and getting summonses today in our corridor. So I just want to encourage everyone to please be sure that they're reading up on where masks are required and where they are not required or are optional. And of course, it's up to you on how to best feel safe, but I don't want anyone in our community having a run-in with law enforcement just because there was some fine print on this announcement. So I'm gonna go ahead and move forward on the agenda. Unless, I'm so sorry, Art, did you wanna say anything about Puerto Rican and COVID?
Well, I mean, the only thing I'd have to emphasize that the COVID numbers have really dropped, and we're still doing testing, we're still doing vaccines, we're still providing vaccines, but the numbers are really a lot less, where we used to see like between 100 and 200 a day is dropped to below, so like below 15. Maybe.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
It's really very low. I mean, we still provide the service and it's available, but the positivity rates in New York are really quite low right now. They're like almost below 1%. So
Great.
That's good.
So that's good. That's moving forward. I also want to just remind everybody that President Joe Biden today announced that people could get a second order of home testing kits. Please double check the expiration date on any testing kits that you may have in your home. If it has expired, please discard it and order a new set from the Biden-Harris administration. So just want to remind people of that. I have a lot of people who didn't realize that there was an expiration date on these. So I'm going to go ahead and ask Art to stay on. And if Art, you can give us an update about your participation in the Volunteers of America CAB quickly, and then I'll follow up with the CAB that I participated in.
Sure. In February, I attended the Community Advisory Board of Volunteers of America with Janae McKay and Jonathan Tavares, who's the program director of the Schwartz Assessment Shelter and Schwartz Community Support Services Mental Health Shelter located on Wards Island. And they gave a really good overview of the shelter. It's a 300+ bed facility that serves single adult men. It also has like 60 beds of permanent mental health shelter space. And they provide community support services, case management, planning, facilitation, advocacy for services to meet a client's health needs. And they coordinate with departments across the agency and community to deliver the best outcomes for their clients. So, their end goal is to connect clients to housing, permanent housing, whether independent or supportive. And that's about it. And also, Jonathan would like to present to the community board when there's an opportunity to do so.
Thank you, Art. I believe that there's some communication going on between Jonathan and Marlene. So we will definitely be following up with him once we get through this budget process to get them back on the calendar for an update. I'm going to go ahead and share. We had a very thorough presentation from the CUNY SPH Harlem Strong program about all their work they're doing around mental illness as a result of COVID and all sorts of other COVID-related studies across the entirety of Harlem community, from east, river to river, north to south. They have a very robust opportunity to engage communities and are looking for anyone in the community, whether it's a resident and or an organization that works particularly with our seniors, but anyone who may be impacted by mental illness, and that could be family members, it could be coworkers, it could be children, et cetera, of those impacted. And so if anybody's interested, I highly recommend getting involved with Harlem Strong. They presented last month and they have been continuing to stay in contact with us. And I think that what they're doing is amazing. So shout out to Deborah Levine and the rest of the team about the Harlem Strong initiative and what they're doing to make sure that they build partnerships across the entirety of Harlem, which I think is so important for us to be able to identify those in need, identify best practices, scale them up, and better serve our community. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next agenda item. Thank you, Marlene. So we have an informational presentation from Shelton Loft. Many of you may remember, I believe Shelton Loft used to be on 126 and has recently relocated. I see Dwayne Joseph is here to present. So Dwayne, the floor is yours. And I know that it says 15 minutes, but we usually try to allow for questions within that time frame. So hopefully if you can do 10 minutes, we'd love to give 5 minutes for Q&A, and the floor is yours.
Sure. Am I able to share my screen?
You are able to share your screen, and I just want to say it's so good to see you, my brother.
It's good to see you as well. You did some good work out here in the summer.
Yeah, me and you both, man. We were a great team, making sure that everybody got tested and got their PPE. So I thank you for the work that you did in East Harlem and across Harlem.
You're very welcome. So good evening, everyone. My name is Dwayne Joseph. I am an engagement specialist here at Shelton Loft. Bear with me here a second. I'm trying to get there we go. My name is Dwayne Joseph. I am the new engagement specialist here at Shelton Loft. I've been with Shelton Loft since October of 2021. We are what is referred to as a psychosocial clubhouse. We have been located here in East Harlem since 2014. As Nye mentioned, we were located on 126th Street between Park and Lexington in the harm reduction program building on the 4th floor, but recently relocated to 1946 First Avenue, right at the corner of East 101st Street. And I'm told I'm supposed to tell people that we are directly across the street from the Dollar Tree, because apparently that is a popular thing. So Shelton Loft is what's called a psychosocial clubhouse. We are an organization that allows adults with serious mental illness to join community and work together to help themselves build confidence and self-esteem in order to achieve their personal successes. We refer to, because we're a non-clinical program, we refer to our clients, as some would normally say, as members, because this is a membership program, it's a clubhouse. So we refer to our base as our population that we serve as members. There is an application process, and there's criteria to join, which I will quickly go over as part of the presentation. So what is a clubhouse and what's the experience of a clubhouse? Clubhouse is a setting where people with mental health diagnoses are provided with opportunities to achieve their full potential. What does that mean? A member comes in, or a potential member comes in and wants to, I don't know, get housing, or they want to go back to school. We are a space that will provide access to that resource, will help a member do the research, fill out the applications, and provide them with support. I like to tell people we are the support system after you go through the clinical process. So you may go through, a person living with mental illness may go through, let's say, for example, a PROS program, which is a support group program that has a finite date that ends, and they get then, you know, will, and I use this term loosely, graduate. Once you're out of that program, you know, what's the support mechanism to help you continue to thrive? Shelton Loft is that space. Clubhouses are those spaces. Clubhouse International is an organization that was started 70 years ago by a group of individuals who were living with mental illness, had gone through various clinical programs, had, you know, again, using the term loosely, graduated, and I'm saying that with air quotes, graduated out of these programs and, you know, found that they needed support. So they built a system or an organization that would allow them to support each other through their lifelong healing process. So we've continued to do that. Shelton is one of, I believe, 14 accredited clubhouses in the city. We happen to be the one based here in East Harlem. Again, our members are referred to, the individuals that come here are referred to as members. This is it's like any other organization that calls themselves a club or clubhouse. We are not clinical, we do not have patients. That is a big part of Clubhouse. We are members to help foster individuality and foster independent living. We refer to them as members. It helps with the overall, again, healing process long-term. Clubhouse setting is seen as a workplace environment where all members and staff are working together to perform daily tasks. We do this through what's called the work order day. The work order day essentially is a structure that allows members to engage with staff to help the clubhouse function. I, as an individual staff member of Clubhouse, have in theory 6 times the workload that I can handle. And that is to facilitate or encourage me as a staff member to engage with our members to facilitate the day-to-day activities of Clubhouse. So it helps, you know, foster those like life skills and job readiness skills. We do it through several different avenues in the work order day. So in our Clubhouse, we have 4 units. We have our member administration unit, which is my bottom line responsibility for. So all the administrative work, the reception desk, recruiting of new members, filing of any documents and paperwork. Members assist me with that every single day. We have our cafe unit. We have a full commercial kitchen here where we make meals for our members, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. And we have a wellness area that includes a fitness area. So members help with running workshops around fitness, nutrition, health, and wellness. And we also have what we call our career advancement area, where we help our membership in their desire to achieve either academic success or build job readiness skills. So quite a few different areas. And in addition to all of that, again, we support our membership by helping them whenever they need or whenever they ask. We do that as a collective, as both staff and members. We do not have a hierarchy here. The idea is that for anyone walking into the clubhouse, you won't be able to tell the difference between staff and a member. And one of the reasons that is that, you know, a lot of people aren't aware of the fact that throughout, you know, the United States, you know, 1 out of 5 people live with mental illness. And it's difficult to, you know, by sight to tell who that person is. And we want to fight back against the stigma of living with mental illness in our communities, especially in communities of color. There are all sorts of reasons why, you know, there's a stigma. You know, first it's, you know, you don't tell, you know, family business. There's the challenges around the religious components of it, where people believe that, you know, it's just against dogma for you to have a mental illness and you pray through it. So we want to create a community that allows our members to live their best life without the fear of being stigmatized. And especially, you know, as this mentions, especially during these times, and you guys have been discussing it so far during the meeting, especially through the Harlem Strong Initiative, we need to check in with each other, virtually and in person if you can. But it's important that we recognize the importance of checking in with each other. So our membership requirements are very basic. You have to be 18 years or older, reside in one of the 5 boroughs of New York City, and have one of these 4, be diagnosed with one of these 4 mental illnesses: schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar disorder, or major depression. We are 100% fully funded by the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. So there is absolutely no cost for someone to become a member. And once you're a member, again, you are a lifelong member. We do not charge any insurance. We don't bill insurance. We don't even ask for an insurance card, other than if a member needs help with something to do with their insurance. So that's a very important thing, because there are hurdles when people are trying to get access to mental health care where insurance is not taken, especially a lot of our members on Medicaid and Social Security, and funds and, you know, are limited, and therefore their ability to pay for certain things are limited. This is a space where they don't even have to worry about that. Just a bit, these, you know, some of our members doing some of the work. We have, again, education, housing, employment. Our members come in and help with everything. That's my little sneaker in the background on the back table in that picture, if you can see it. You know, our staff, in this picture, you'll see the 2 ladies in the picture. The lady on your right is our program director, Suzanne Stout, and in the center there on the left is Charlene Niles, our associate director. But we build relationships with our members and carry out day-to-day tasks. You know, our clubhouse, again, we are not clinical, so we don't treat our members with any kind of psychotherapy. This is a support network. We are here to help each other build through, you know, shared experience. Right? Our members do everything by, again, performing tasks. And we're building self-esteem. We're building like life skills here. Oh, I forgot I had that fancy transition in there.
Dwayne, I just want to keep you on time for questions.
So yeah, we can do questions.
If these are
Yeah.
programmatic slides, you're welcome to just advance them, and I'd love to open it up for questions. So,
and I'll share this
first of all,
information. I'm sorry to cut you off now. I'll share this with the community board as well.
Perfect. So yeah, if you can email this presentation to Marlene so that we have it, if you could drop your contact information into the chat, that would be amazing. I want to open up the floor to first committee members that might have a question or comment. And so if there's anyone from the committee, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Okay. If there is a member of the public that has a question for Dwayne about the Shelton Loft program, could you please raise your hand and wait to be recognized? Well, awesome. I'm going to just say that I used to consult for Abraham House, which is another model of clubhouse. And their models, this clubhouse model works because the head of Abraham House, excuse me, not Abraham House, Fountain House. The head of Fountain House is now going to be part of the Adams administration, so that the work that they're doing there, this clubhouse model, is something that's been recognized. And I think being able to bring that knowledge about the clubhouse model and how it can be used to assist men and women and those in our community who have a history of mental illness or homelessness. I'm happy to see this being elevated, and I'm happy that you guys found a new space and are able to still remain in the East Harlem community. So thank you for this presentation. Thank you for your work. I look forward to continuing to work with you, Brother Dwayne.
Same here. Thank you very much, everyone.
All righty. And so I'm going to move forward with our next presentation. So the big chunk of this evening, and I know it's already late, so everyone please bear with us. We'll spend the next few minutes going over a review of the mayor's preliminary budget and the items as it pertains to the Health and Human Services Committee. Marlene, are you back yet? I know you stepped away for a moment.
Yes, I'm back.
Great. Would you be able to put the tracker
Yeah,
up on
I'm
the
doing it now.
screen? Yeah, take your time. So everyone, I just wanted to remind you, in the fall, we went line by line through the budget items and the tracker. Many of the items we know are carryovers from previous years and are core needs of our communities, core priorities of our communities from the Health and Human Services side of our community board. And we have a new administration. We have many new council members, many new leaders, both at the city and the state level for some of these organizations and agencies. And so this is now the response from the agency's timeframe for us to review. Some of the items, the amazing staff at the district office has already highlighted some of the ones that we should review. And then if there's anything else that we would like to say, the committee is allowed to draft a paragraph, a brief paragraph, to then be incorporated with the overall narrative that goes with this for submission back. So Marlene, I want to open it up. Excuse me, if Xavier has anything to add, Xavier, I know that you're on our amazing chair. I don't know if you'd like to add anything, and then otherwise I'm going to turn it over to Marlene for the next steps.
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I think you just go line item by line item right through it. It's regrettably a very, for some, it's a very droll activity in the response back and forth, but it's part of our dance with the budget. And it helps us inform when we go to our district consultations and advocate for our positions, and also have our meetings with our council members. And we have 3 that overlap in our district. So I think just you got to go through the motion, unfortunately, and go through bit by bit by bit.
And 2 of our council members are new, right? So we have Julie Menon to the south, who replaces council member Ben Kalos. And we have Kristen Jordan Richardson, I'm going to always get her name wrong, I apologize, who replaced council member Perkins. And of course, we have council member Diana Ayala, who is now the deputy speaker. So I just want to say, in the essence of time, Marlene, is there a way to scroll all the way to the right for the comments from the staff already? So it looks like if anyone read the materials that Marlene worked so diligently to give out, that the overall recommendation is that we should actually invite the agency that we work with the most, that we have the most budget items with, to come and meet with our committee. And so, Marlene, I would like to ask if you could help facilitate that. I think it's important that we have a lot of agreement from the agencies about our requests, but there is a notation on many of them that funding can't be determined at this time, which I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's because new administration and new, budgets, and that there's been, this kind of call for reductions across. But I feel very strongly, as I know many of the other committee members have expressed in our time doing this together, that East Harlem has been very much impacted by the pandemic. We have a lot of frontline workers, we have a lot of seniors, we have a lot of young people, we have a high concentration of public housing, all of which was already in a state of neglect or underservice that has only been exacerbated by the pandemic. And so any cuts to any of the services in our community, I think will only send us into a downward spiral. So Marlene, I just want to turn the floor over to you to figure out the best way to, is it just like I said, we have the agency come in and we reserve any other comments to that, or do we need to on the floor craft a paragraph right now?
Right, so ideally you can craft a paragraph right now, or you can have a vote to give a response by a certain date. Just, you know, have someone give a motion, have someone second it. In terms of the line item, that was done in the fall, in October. That's when, you know, you gave a budget request for each line. The exercise for today is to look at the agency's responses to your request. And it seems as though a lot of them were not funded, or the blanket statement was the agency agrees with this request, but funding cannot be determined at this time, like down the road. So yes, responding to your request to have DOHMH come in, to have DIFTA come in, you know, what other agencies do you guys follow? The majority of it is of your thing is you have one for health and hospitals. I believe that primarily was Eva's initial request in October.
Right. So I would then like
extend
to
invitations to them.
Yeah, I think it's right now we're at the point where it's extending invitations because you know, yes, you agree, but funding can't be determined. I don't understand why that is. And I think that, you know, literally, if you look at it, we literally have the same answer pretty much through all of our budget tracker items, which to me feels like they're kicking our request down the you know, the way. So I would like to make a motion for, I mean, I'd like to ask that someone makes a motion, but I'm going to word this in a particular way. I'd like to ask for a member of the committee to make a motion for this committee to draft a paragraph by the end of this week, right? Because we've got to get it to the board and have it ready for the board meeting. So by the end of this week, by this Friday, which I believe is the 11th, 7th, 8th, 9th, by the 11th of March, which would summarize the response of the Human Services Committee to the responses from the agencies. I see Xavier's hands raised, so I'm just going to pause for one moment and allow the chair to speak before I recall for that motion. Xavier?
Great. Yeah, thank you. This is, so it's important for, be it as a public meeting, that we go through the line items individually and review them and make sure that like, we've addressed and at least have a sense of how the committee is going to lean before we respond. That's typically what we should be doing. And at least get a litmus.
Xavier, I just want to double check. I just want to double check because we did have a meeting with Angel earlier today where it was discussed, because the majority of the responses were the same across the board, that we could kind of bundle the response for today with a motion for us to write this paragraph.
Right. So in that particular case, I'm sorry if I missed that. Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry I missed that because I have my little ones combating dinner time, bedtime, all that jazz. So if you had a consultation with Angel and he said because of the majority of these responses, in the past we've gone line item by line item. So that is absolutely fine if Angel and you have had that conversation. So I think it's how we positioned each one. But again, just making sure we're putting it out there for the public because that's who we represent.
No, I want to be compliant. And so I also don't want to speak for Marlene. Marlene, did I summarize that correctly in terms of the steps? I defer to you.
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Carry on. Thank you.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. No, we need all the guidance that we can get to make sure we do this right, and that the community is informed and that we get the resources we need from this new administration. And so, Marlene, exactly how many items do we have on the tracker for Health and Human Services?
I don't know exactly. I look at a
Okay.
few committee meetings, so
No
I know
worries.
exactly
Yeah,
what's
yeah, no
going on
worries.
at this meeting.
So
So we can count if you would like.
yeah, if you don't mind, it's just because I want to make a motion. And my screen is on my phone, so it's kind of hard to see the full.
Seems as though you have 4, but let me double check.
Okay.
Mm. Yeah.
7. Does that look like 7?
Yeah.
Okay. So please forgive us, everyone. Just want to go back to what this motion would be. So I am looking for a member of the committee to make a motion.
Hold on, you have more than 7.
Okay.
You could get the wording together. It won't interrupt my count.
No,
Just,
Okay.
it looks like, Marlene, I just
yeah,
finished counting.
how much are you
It looks
seeing?
like it's 15.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So thank you for the clarification, everyone. Like I said, I'm doing this from a phone, so it's really hard. Everything gets so tiny. And I have 2 pairs of glasses that they're never going to do it justice. So I'm asking for a member of the committee to make a motion, calling upon the committee to draft a written response related to the 15 items in our budget tracker to be submitted to the district office no later than this Friday, March 15th. And so I'd like someone to make a motion of a first and a second.
Hi, this is Art. I'll make the motion to draft a response to the 15 capital budget items by the end of this week for submission.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry.
recognizing-
I'm sorry. Just for the record, are there expenses? This committee has expense budget requests?
Wait, no, sir.
Not capital.
You have to go see Kevin. Everything's fine. No, my decision is final. I'm postponing my flight. The budget.
Is there a way to mute whoever that is? Yes.
I'm sorry.
Correction that they
Just so
are
it's
not
it's
capital
expense, yeah.
expenses. Yeah. Please take out the word capital. I'm recognizing Robin.
I second Arturo's motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Marlene, do you need to do a roll call vote for this?
No, I need Art to restate it. If
Okay.
you don't, I didn't get every single word he said.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Marlene, but when you were talking, there was a lot of noise. I don't know what
Yeah,
you said.
somebody's mic was on. Yeah, I had to find out who the mic was, and I turned it off while your motion was being said. If it's reworded, it's okay. You guys have not gone to a vote, so it's okay to reword your motion. It has not been voted on.
Okay, so I just don't know what you want me to reword. That's the problem.
The motion.
Okay, I make a motion to submit a response by the end of this week to the 15 budget requests.
Mhm.
To something else?
I'm just writing it down. Motion to draft a response. Motion to draft a response.
To the 15 budget requests by
Yeah,
the end of the
to-
week.
Okay.
Do you need Robin to resecond?
Yes.
Happy is Disney.
I second Arturo's motion. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Marlene, do we need to do a roll call vote?
Yes, I'm going to get to that right now.
No worries. I just didn't know if it was going to be by verbal or roll call. Thank you.
Mhm. Eva Chan,
Yes.
Sandy Garcia, Robin Krinsky,
Yes.
Jennifer Meyer,
Yes.
Arturo Perez,
Yes.
Robin Stration,
Oh, yes.
and Nye Whitaker.
Definitely, yes. I can't wait to help us write this.
Marlene, you skipped me, but yes.
I'm sorry, is this Pat? I'm sorry, I didn't call you in the first roll call, so I didn't see if you were here.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah, I'll get you in the second roll call, okay?
Okay, no worries.
All right. It carries, Nye.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Just for a brief moment to interlude, I believe that there were people on the Zoom this evening from Harlem Strong. People were asking for your information. If you could please drop your information into the chat so that people can have it. I also want to recognize that we do have members from our council's office. Usually we're just notified to be called upon if there's an update that you would like to share. Otherwise, you'll just have to wait to the end of the agenda for the announcements at the end for closing. So you guys are welcome to remain on, and I will call on you at the conclusion of the agenda items. So Marlene, I think we're going to move forward to the next item. Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is an oldie but goodie. So under old business, I have added the revisiting, I guess it's revisiting, of the resolution calling for a moratorium that we passed last March. Some community boards, when they write a resolution, they leave it, it's in kind of perpetuity, and they don't revisit it until a time is needed. However, our Health and Human Services Committee, in conjunction with the staff and the leadership, would like to renew this particular resolution and call for a 12-month extension, given the fact that this pandemic has continued, given the fact in the continued rise of crime in our community, given the fact that there is just great need and tremendous need for services as this pandemic extends, and given the history of oversaturation in our community. We are here to make sure that those in our community and others across the city get the help that they need, but we also want to make sure that we maintain our quality of life and our culture here in East Harlem. I'm going to briefly call upon our chair, Xavier Santiago, to add some comment before we review this as a committee. Xavier, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Nye. I just and everyone here. A few things. The genesis of this moratorium was to deal with the issues facing our community, which is an inequitable distribution of substance abuse clinics, methadone clinics, and what have you. Part of that was because back in the days during the crack cocaine epidemic, heroin epidemic, we were crying for help, and not dissimilar to what happened with back on the 70s and 80s when we were crying for help for policing, when there was a 5-to-1 ratio in Midtown. But what we did not foresee is that they would decide to put many of these clinics here. And unfortunately, what that has led to is a concentration that has fallen on our laps to assess and determine who the good players are and the bad players are, because obviously substance abuse and addiction affect, it has no biases. It affects everyone, including my own family. And but I think when it comes to the greater good and how we look at it as a community, we have to assess what is equitable in distribution. And we've seen evidence that has shown that we have people participating in programs here that are coming from Long Island and outside of our greater city perimeter. As such, over a year ago, we passed a moratorium. We passed a resolution calling for a moratorium to stop any new or additional services. So that included existing clinics or providers from adding additional services, including but not limited to formalization, whatever word, pedantic smithing they would like to play. That being said, obviously, in light of this fact, we still had over on 126th Street, they founded a harm reduction clinic, which again, as our chair of the Human Services Committee stated, it's not that we're without empathy. We absolutely are. But the fact is we were not consulted. So I think it's very important that we, in Spanish, say planta la bandera, plant the flag and say, listen, we need a moratorium. This resolution is calling for that so we can assess and pull out the real data, how many members of our community are partaking in all of these clinics within our district, which are within the surrounding community districts, and then those that are from outside. A lot of that is available publicly, but some of it is veiled because you don't have to disclose a lot of details. Nonetheless, what we have noticed, and as of recently is the uptick, and I've been out there personally, the uptick in hand-to-hand exchanges, and we've seen additionally, we've seen a greater influx of dealers. We've had shootings within the surrounding area of 125th, including 124th and Lexington, which was reported back to the 25th Precinct Council meeting, that it was a K2 dealer to dealer. There was another dealer to dealer event on 125th Park, at least, and there have been other exchanges that have happened within the surrounding blocks. And as of late last night, there was a dealer to dealer shooting over on 126 near 1775 houses. With the renewal of this, I would ask this committee, and again, being not emeritus, but ex officio, I can't really lay it down, but as an addition to the moratorium, but I would ask this committee to entertain the housing committee, referencing the housing committee, and that people within the district are noticing an uptick of dealer and crime and gun violence as it relates, which calls for a necessary additional pause for a year to assess the short-term and long-term impact to our community, and that we beseech and, if not request, all of the elected officials to heed our call, so that we can determine which communities definitely need services such as these. That is the simple addition. If this committee is willing to entertain it, otherwise it is fine as it is. The last bit to add is that for those that are unaware, with NIRE, who actually are good providers, but they, again, it's not, as we referenced in the meeting, and your chair and I of Human Services there, and yeah, as a parent opined, if it were Harry Potter platform 9 3/4, we didn't know it was here, we didn't know what was going on, we probably wouldn't care. But the fact is that that's not the case. So the Bronx had the highest amount of ODs, then followed by Staten Island, and then a mix within our district of Manhattan. So again, this is the reality we're dealing with. So that is the as we say in my industry, the brain dump. So thank you very much. And if there are any questions, let me know. But otherwise, thank you for taking this, continuing our position on this resolution.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your support of this resolution and for your ongoing work. So a few quick updates. We've seen just a lot more attention to this issue in conjunction with our resolution. Lots of groups and residents stepping up and doing their great work to call attention to this. So I just want to thank, it's too many to name, but all of the coalitions, all the tenant leaders and other organizations, faith-based, small businesses, our law enforcement, et cetera, that have been working to advance movement around dealing with the oversaturation and making sure we provide services to those who need in a way that is respectful and equitable. The mayor has visited not twice now to this neighborhood, but was also to do walks along the 125th Street corridor, east and west, but has also been up here for the shootings that have occurred and for some of the hate crimes that have occurred. So our community is getting a lot of attention. And as I said when I started, our culture is more than what's happening in this 10-block radius. And so I want to make sure that our narrative is about the amazing things that are happening in East Harlem and the amazing service providers that are in East Harlem and the compassion and love and solidarity of the community of East Harlem. And part of the way we do that is by extending this moratorium and continuing to invite organizations who provide services in our community to have a forum, to be able to have questions and dialogue, to talk about what services they deliver and how we can work together to serve those in our community. And then by taking this moratorium, hopefully passing it, moving it through to full board, hopefully passing it there, which I will need everybody's help for, and then making sure that each of the new elected officials in our community are aware. It seems like there's a new task force every day to try to address this problem. But what would be great is if each elected official signed on to this moratorium, or excuse me, this call for a moratorium, and made sure that it went to the highest levels of every agency that's involved in what's taking place in our corridor. So with that, I am going to recognize first any questions or brief comments given the time from the community, excuse me, from the committee members first. So if there's any questions or comments from the committee members first, please raise your hand, and then from there I will open it up to the community. So first, starting with committee members. Just want to see hands raised.
Eva has her hand raised.
Eva, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the question is, if the existing service expand in office hours, for example, I think the safe injection site want to expand to 24 hours operation. If existing service also expand the number of services they provided, is that covered by the moratorium?
Our moratorium covers both new or expansions. So at this point in time, I'd like to renew what we have instead of rewriting it. And I think, again, when we share it out with the different organizations, so when we share it out with DOHMH, when we share it out with any of the organizations, when we share it with the service providers, let them know that it also covers expansion of services in any way. So that is time, that is capacity, that is beds. Expansion is expansion. And considering what happened last time with our notice, I'm not sure that they want to, I would hope that they do not want to repeat the lack of communication and information that happened in December under the new administration and under new leadership, because I don't think they want the wrath of CB11. And I say that with compassion to all. I see two other hands raised, Marlene, but I can't see the difference of who they are. I thank you, Eva, for your question. Is it a committee member? Is it a committee member or general public?
Xavier has his hand raised.
Thank you, Xavier. Please do have the floor, and just the committee person know you're up next. The community person know you're up next. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Eva. It's a good question. We can again double check on that, but the committee is going to renew that additional item, and we can confirm, and if we're all in agreement that it is clear, no expansion of services and whatnot, that would be a quick add as an addition. So again, we don't have it pulled up here on the screen, but without, the committee can pass and say to, we support carrying the resolution, continuing the resolution, and with confirmation that includes an expansion or addition of services, and then that frees up the Marlene and the chair to the committee to double check to make sure. So that, and then we would just highlight that as either an underline to show that it was an addition if it was missing for whatever reason. So we don't need to go into a wordsmithing episode, but even here in that, that's as simple as how we would have it from Robert's Rules of Order. So thank you,
Marlene. I was just going to ask you to pull it up. Thank you, Xavier.
No problem. So I see that you guys are making a few additions to it. So what I'm going to do on the floor now, just so there isn't any confusion, you guys tell me exactly what you would like to add and what you would like to change. If it's not told to me now, then I am going to ask when this comes to a vote, that someone from the committee, put it in the motion language, will give me via email, exactly where these additions are going in this existing document. If not, then I won't know where you want the change to go.
Understood. Before we do that, I'm just going to take the rest of the comments that are
problem.
on the raised hands on the floor, and then we can review the document to make sure that it has the necessary language. So I have two hands raised, and Marlene, I can't see who they are. I know that there was an Evelyn who's been up, it looked like a very long time, and I don't know who the second is.
Right, so Eva has her hand raised from the committee, and from the public, you have Evelyn Berg.
Eva said she's raising her hand only to motion, so I'm going to take Evelyn from the public and circle back to Eva. Evelyn, please unmute yourself and please share a question or brief comment.
Yes, thank you for letting me speak. I'm part of the Greater Harlem Coalition, and this is wonderful that you want to extend this. A couple of I just want to mention there was a shooting in front of Whole Foods a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure you know that. Evelyn,
Evelyn, just 1 second to pause. Yes, I just want to make sure if you give other relevant examples, they are to CB11. That is in CB10. I understand, and I think it's important, but I just want to make
I'm sorry.
sure
I didn't,
that if you
right,
give,
you're East Harlem.
Yeah, that's okay. When we give references, we always try to make sure we keep it to this district. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't realize that. I just want to say I was on another call with the Harm Reduction Center, the safe.
Yeah, we know
injection
exactly what you're.
Site. That was a few months ago, and there was something rather shocking in that. Somebody said basically that we should leave everything as the status quo, because if we cleaned up the neighborhood, that it would basically gentrify and people wouldn't be able to afford to live here. Now, given that we were talking about violence, gun violence, I found that to be very shocking. The thing I want to say though is that when we asked in that meeting for any data on the success of any of this, like we asked them, well, what if somebody wants to get off drugs? Oh yes, we drive them somewhere, but there was no follow-up. They had no data other than saying they had saved 4 lives, which is not insignificant. I'm not underestimating that, but they are not being required to keep any data on the success of their harm reduction programs. Or if we're talking about Mount Sinai, they are bringing in, well, that's actually not in your district.
I was going to say that. So Evelyn, let me just interrupt for a quick moment. Thank you so much for coming to the community board and staying on. And for what I'm hearing seems to be your support as a community member of this resolution calling for a moratorium.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to share 2 pieces of data. So one of the projects that we have undertaken, you saw the presentation today from Shelton Loft. Everybody that we invite, including the Harm Reduction Center, which spoke earlier this year, actually might have been December of last year, they have to fill out a new service provider form that our committee has drafted. So we are now gathering information from each of these service providers, asking them to appear and talk about their services, asking them what portion of their services are delivered to East Harlem Community Board 11 or CD 11 residents, et cetera, et cetera. So we are now starting this process. It's been going on for a little over a year since I came on as chair. It's something that I work with Eva, Xavier, Marlene, Angel, and other members of our Robin, Pastor Isaac Scott, and other members of our committee. So regardless of what they require from DOH, MH, et cetera, we're asking them for data and information. Secondly, I just want to point out, in our resolution, it's also one of the things that we call for, is that a public sharing, almost like a dashboard of information about the impacts of these organizations in their services in the community. So we are in alignment, we'll move forward, and we will keep you abreast as that information comes through this
Thank you very much, I appreciate that.
Thank you, thank you. I do see one other person, but it just says P. Kelly, so I'm going to call on you, but if you could please tell us your name and have a comment or question as it relates to Community Board 11 and this resolution.
Yeah, thanks for taking my question. Phil Kelly from 127th Street. I had a clarification question. Can you explain what powers the community board has to enforce the resolution? I mean, it's great that it's being renewed, the moratorium, but I mean, given that the safe injection site happened, I mean, is that something you have the powers to stop, and is there recourse if the city doesn't consult you?
So there's two things. Thank you so much, Mr. Kelly, for the question and for being here with us this evening. The first is that this is calling for a moratorium. This is a resolution calling for a moratorium, and the power is in the voices of the people. So the first step is that the committee passes it, just so that you understand the process. We passed it last year. Then it goes to the full board. The full board would have to pass it. And of course, at that time, they're allowed other opportunities for discussion and or revisions to this resolution. If that is happens, which is what happened, last year, it then goes to every agency and every elected official. And we've expanded it last cycle to city and state as well. Anybody that had to do with this jurisdiction. So in other words, assembly members, city council members, and the agencies that we interact with. Secondly, I'm going to call on Xavier, because we've had this conversation a lot regarding the powers and jurisdiction of the community board as it relates specifically to that harm reduction center. So Xavier, you and I were in the same meeting, but as chair, I want to defer to you to talk about that particular incident and also what the powers are of the community board, if you don't mind. So I'm recognizing Xavier.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Kelly, and thank you, Chair Nye. Love working with you. It's a great question, actually, and if you go into the city charter, and I apologize if you hear any of my kiddos in the background, the reality is that when it comes to ULURP, we have more power in those particular positions, but with resolutions, oftentimes they become, if not a lightning rod, guide rails to a lot of our electeds and how they should navigate a particular position. And as Nye was there, as well as our chair emeritus, Anil Rama, and our district manager, Angel Muscane, it was noted by our current council member, Diana Ayala, even though it doesn't reside in her district, that she was supportive of it, and despite knowing of the moratorium. So what that calls into question is, how do we navigate this? And I think it's important for all members of the public, because I think the height of any successful democracy is where all voices are educated and engaged. In this particular instance, I think it was under the emergency powers that the mayor was utilizing that allowed them to just plunk it right down. Initially, they wanted to go to the South Bronx, where the highest amount of overdoses were occurring, but there was not a facility that could onboard before the end of the previous mayor's term. Staten Island had no facility whatsoever that could take it on board. And during that conversation, it was shared with us that there were meetings happening back in September with DOHMH, and I believe it was Dr. Cunningham, who is now the head of OASIS, who unfortunately withheld information from us that these conversations were going on. And as was shared with us by Mr. Rivera, they said, yeah, we were having these conversations, and the rep from DOHMH looked at us and said, oh, I got to get back on this. So what is the answer is, what is the power that we hold when we have information? And I can both tell you, we said, if you have anything that changes when it comes to identification, because at the time they were saying, oh, we haven't really made a decision. They tried to play with words, a bit of a computer science English major here. So the pedantics of it fell flat for us, and we were very livid. So how do we activate? What power do we have? It's about mobilization in the public, and you being here is that first step in the process, informing and relating to us and saying, hey, this is not working for us. We need to change things. It's become increasingly unsafe, or this program is working. That's the power. So that informs our decision, and then follow through. And this is something that, since I just took up the helm as chair this past January 1, big thing that I'm harping at is follow through, which is chasing down our electeds, our agencies, our everyone under the sun. And that's the reality we're at. If you'd like to get connected, more involved, there are ways we can all work together, which is the goal of it, which is to unite our community. Because often in the past, their electeds have changed their position because the community board took a position, and they have mobilized. But that again, that's part of our working together. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope that answers your question. I'll drop my information and my email in the chat. So if you have further questions, we can set up a conference call.
And again, I just want to thank you, Xavier. So normally what happens with these resolutions is that the council members would join us in advocating for the will of the people. So meaning, if there's another siting of a sanitation facility, well, CB11 has 3. We have the one for us and the one for the west side and the one for Upper East Side. So if there was, another call for a sanitation, we might all rally and write a resolution saying we don't want another sanitation station, and then impress upon our local elected officials to elevate our voices and vote against this when it comes up. In this instance, as was said, there was a transition in the council member that this particular site was in. And so some of the deference went to the neighboring council member who was in favor of it. But also, this is a prime example of how a transition in the administration left an opportunity for something to happen that I don't think that the community was in favor of, but also just remove the opportunity for us to have a forum to discuss how do we partner with this service. It's also, to our knowledge, post haste that we found out technically the service was existing already. It just wasn't formalized. So getting back to the resolution, I want to thank you, Mr. Kelly, for your question. I hope that it's a little more complicated, but I hope that gave you some sort of a highlight or kind of, brief overview. But as I said, the power is with the people. So if this resolution is passed by this committee, I ask that each one of you share this resolution out widely and make sure that your neighbors and the store owners that you go to in the community, the service providers, of in the community, the faith-based and other community leaders know that this exists. It's been on the books for a year. We're calling for it to be renewed, and the full board would be the vote later this month. And so being able to show support for that and making sure it gets a full vote of the full board at the end of March meeting, I think is really important. So I just want to get back really quickly now that we have the document up. And I want to just show Eva where we were under the impression that this particular item was covered, and then we can talk about whether or not we need to make a further revision. But I would like to pass it as is, because I think then it will get passed more quickly through this committee, but also more importantly through full board. That is just my humble opinion. And so the way we address expansions, Marlene, if you don't mind, is in the last item. And just so that you guys know, the items are really important on this particular piece. So the way we address expansion is in item number 3, which is to require all OASIS authorized, and I'm sorry that the transcription is popping up on my screen. Require all OASIS authorized drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, and treatment centers to come before CB11M no later than 120 days prior to all reauthorizations and or expansions of services or capacities. And to my understanding, that means hours. And the only reason why we changed some of that wording is because, and I think Sean Hill always says this in his presentations, OASIS, DOHMH, other authorizers and entity use other language. So for example, we might say capacity, they might say we might say the number of people served, they might say beds, so we use the word capacity. Hours is considered an expansion. And so as it stands right now, we are covering that in this. But we also kept it a slightly bit vague on purpose, Eva, because we spoke as a committee about the fact that there may be additional needs for services as a result of the pandemic. And we didn't want to put too tight of language in here that would prevent anyone from East Harlem who was in dire need of services of getting services. So I just wanted to make sure that you knew about those 2 items. So Eva, I'm just going to call on you one more time to make sure that this is clear in answering your questions, because we had to pull up the document.
Yeah, no, you addressed my question. I mainly want to motion
Perfect.
for us to extend the moratorium. Is it going to be another year
months.
then?
Another
Okay.
12 months.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so my motion is to extend the moratorium for another 12 months.
Thank you. Eva, is there a second to Eva's
I'm
motion?
sorry, Nye,
Oh, yes,
before you move forward,
yes.
is there any other revision being done to this document?
There is no revision
No
being
more
done to the.
revisions, so you're not revising a revised or an extension, right? So right now, the title says nothing about an extension. So you're leaving the title as is, this whole document is staying as is.
I'm gonna rewind this, Marlene. If we are extending for an additional 12 months, do we need to include that wording in here somewhere?
I mean, it's up to you as a committee. I'm not making a statement. I'm asking you as a committee. When I put this for the full board to read it with the motion language and the second, it's going to be as is, no changes to the language.
Correct.
That's what
Correct.
I'm asking. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be triple clear.
Yep, thank you so much.
No problem.
Then, so the first motion, well, I mean, if you
I already
scroll all the
moved.
way down, hang on one second, we scroll all the way down, it has Nils's name on it. Does that
Oh,
need to
that's
be
going to
changed?
be changed. This was done in March, so I'm putting up the one that was
Okay.
done in March before Xavier became.
Understood, I just wanted to make sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Robin, I see your hand raised.
Yes. Thank you. I made that motion at our last meeting to
Mhm.
extend this moratorium as is for another 12 months. So we're really revisiting something that we talked about a month ago. And if you want to accept Eva's motion, I will second it. But I thought I'd already made it.
Then
So
let me
I
second
believe-
yours.
Thank you. I appreciate my fellow committee members. Yes, I believe, Robin, your motion was for us to bring it back up to the agenda for today for review. So out of, kind of stagnant into our old business. So thank you for that. All right. So we now have a motion and a second, however, which way order that you'd like to put our amazing committee members. I thank you for your support. I thank you to the public for being here tonight and for your questions about this process and about the content of this resolution calling for a moratorium. I'm going to ask Marlene. Marlene, can we do a roll call vote?
Sure. Eva Chan,
Yes.
Osandi Garcia, Robin Krinsky,
Yes.
Jennifer Meyer,
Yes.
Arturo Perez,
Yes.
Robin Stration,
Yes.
and Nye Whitaker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. There was a comment about gun violence in the community. If anyone is interested, I know that the Youth and Education Committee has been talking about this as it relates to our young people, and the Public Safety Committee has been working with our local police precincts, of which there are 3, 23rd, 25th, 28th, kind of, and then also PSA 5, which represents public housing. So if you're interested in talking about gun violence, I'd like to recommend that you start attending our community councils meetings for our local precincts and getting involved at that level, as well as joining public safety, as well as youth and education, which are covering those items. Next item on the agenda.
I think it's your last item.
I'm sorry?
That is your last item unless anyone has.
Yeah, I just wanted to double check. There were members from our new council member's office at the beginning that I said I did not know that they were going to be attending. And if they had any announcements that they wanted to share, I would call on them at the end. So if there's any one here from the council member's office, I saw them earlier in the chat. I just wanted to see if they were still here. I would call upon them.
Just let me know what the names are so I can unmute them.
Sure. It looks like there was a Lisa McCracken from Councilwoman Kristen Richardson Jordan's office, and I believe Giselle from the councilman's office was always here.
I see.
Was also here. I don't know if they're still on.
Okay, I'm looking for them.
Okay.
I see it, Giselle. This is her.
Giselle, is there any announcement of upcoming events or items that you would like to share at this moment on behalf of the council member before we adjourn?
No, but there isn't anything that I have. I just wanted to familiarize myself. By the way, I'm Kristen's chief of staff. And I just wanted to come on into the meeting and hear some of the agendas. I really would like to have a meeting, I would like to come and meet the full board, Kristen and myself, after we finish with the budget, if that is okay.
Sure. I
Chairperson?
would just say that I'm happy to pass that on. As you heard, Xavier, our chair, is here, but I would actually ask that before your budget is passed, it would be wonderful if there was a meeting with CB11. I know she has a very diverse district, but I would like to say I'd love to see her, particularly with this issue, focus on CB11 as an important and key part of the district, and meet with us before the budget is passed. As you saw on the tracker, it seems like many of the items are going to be kicked down the road, and CB11 is not going to let our community, which was already underserved, go without the desperate resources we need. So I think if there's any feedback that you can take as chair of this particular committee, I'd like to ask her to call for a meeting with us prior to the vote on the budget, because after the budget will be too late. Chair Santiago, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add for that. I didn't mean to speak for you. I'm only speaking for this committee.
No, nothing but love here. You got me. Yes, so past 2 months, been reaching out to your office to have that meeting. I'm not sure how the wires got crossed. I know you met with our Environment, Open Space and Parks Chair, Jessica Elliott. I believe the council member did, at least that was opined on. Yeah, it is crucial we meet prior to the budget passing. So I have made myself available just as much as I did a walkthrough for over 2 hours in our district of 3 Section 8 houses complex totaling 600 units. So please, I've dropped my information, my email in the chat. Let's set it up ASAP. We would love to have you in March full board as well. Let's make that happen. The meeting happened prior to that. So we have something to truly announce in favor of our shared portions of the district.
Thank you, Chair.
I'll
Thank you,
pass it on.
Giselle. Thank you so much. I see Eva's hand is raised.
Yes, I forgot to ask Noel a question earlier. I saw that the Metropolitan Hospital budget is going to be cut. Is it by about 8% or 5%? I was wondering what is the hospital's plan to deal with the budget cut and how can we help?
Is Noel still on, Marlene?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Noel. And thank you, Eva, for raising that. Please, Noel, how can we be of assistance?
So that's part of what we're discussing at our legislative breakfast on Thursday. We have a whole plan and a presentation about how to restore our budget. I don't have a short answer for you now, but I can follow up.
No,
with
but
you.
that was the perfect plug. Everybody be there Thursday.
Thank you. I'll send out information. I put the link in the chat, and then once we have additional information from Thursday, folks who can't attend, I'll be sure to share it with your committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eva. Thank you, Noel. Any other committee members hand raise announcements or other items before we adjourn? Any upcoming events or activities that we should know about?
Before you adjourn, I'm just going to take the roll one more time just to note those committee members who were, I didn't call during the first roll.
Yeah, and I just wanted to note that Pat Martin at the very beginning when you were doing the roll had said that she was there but was having technical difficulties. So I do want to acknowledge that she was here from the start of the meeting. So Marlene, the floor is yours. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Xavier, you have your hand raised.
Accident.
Okay. I was like, wait, we're at 7:40. We're going to get this done. I saw Robin's face like tick, tick, tick. She's calling a timeout for all of us. So I want to thank all the presenters and turn the floor over to Robin, to Marlene for our final roll call and closeout.
Eva Chan.
Present.
Sandy Garcia. Robin Krinsky.
Present.
Patricia Martin.
Present.
Jennifer Meyer.
Present.
Shirley Pena, Arturo Perez,
Present.
Pastor Isaac Scott, Robin Stration,
Present.
and Nye Whitaker.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate your support on the resolution for a moratorium, and I'd like to ask everyone who's passionate about it to please join us at the full board meeting and help us to make sure that it gets passed by the full board. Everyone have a great night. Please stay safe and stay healthy. See you next month.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Thank you.